What happens when a legendary Hollywood icon walks onto a talk show stage expecting warmth, and instead finds herself staring straight into a wall of tension that no one saw coming? What happens when Penelope Cruz, known for her poise, grace, and disarming calm, confronts Whoopi Goldberg live on The View, and the entire studio goes silent? Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to Stage View and hit the like button, leave a comment, and share your thoughts. It helps us bring you more dramatic, cinematic stories just like this one. The moment Penelope stepped through the side entrance of the View studio, an uneasy stillness seemed to follow her. The audience applauded, but it was the kind of applause that felt slightly confused. Too loud at first, then tapering abruptly, as if everyone sensed something was off but couldn't quite put their finger on it. The cameras were already rolling. The hosts sat in their usual arrangement, but Whoopi Goldberg leaned back in her chair with that unmistakable posture, half amused, half irritated, that viewers had learned to interpret as, something's about to happen. Penelope smiled, her hands gently clasped, her walk composed and elegant. She took her seat between Joy Behar and Sunny Hostin. Joy greeted her immediately. "Penelope, darling, good to have you." But the words felt like an umbrella in a thunderstorm, thin, flimsy, unable to fully cover the tension gathering above. Whoopi didn't say anything at first. She just looked at Penelope, an expression not rude but unmistakably pointed, like she was waiting for something. The audience sensed it. The air shifted. You could almost hear someone swallow in the fourth row. Penelope adjusted her microphone, and when she looked in Whoopi's direction, their eyes met for a fraction of a second, long enough to spark the beginning of a confrontation no one, not even the crew, had planned for. Sunny tried to start the segment cheerfully. "Penelope, you're here promoting your new film, and people are already calling it your best work since." Whoopi cut in. Not loudly, not aggressively, but sharply enough to slice through Sunny's sentence. "Before we get into that," Whoopi said, turning toward Penelope, "I think we need to talk about something else." A ripple went through the studio. A soundless shift, like 100 people leaning forward at once. Penelope blinked slowly. "Of course," she said softly. "If there's something you'd like to discuss, I'm here." Whoopi folded her arms, not tightly but firmly. "I saw your interview last week," she said. "The one where you mentioned certain misconceptions about the industry, about people in this business not supporting each other, about hosts who push narratives." Joy's eyes widened in the way that screamed, "I did not sign up for this today." Penelope inhaled as if preparing for a wave. Then she said, "Yes, I did mention that. I spoke about experiences, moments, patterns, not names." "Right," Whoopi said, leaning in. "But people thought you were talking about me." Gasps erupted from the audience, tiny, sharp reactions bubbling all around the studio. Penelope looked directly at her. Calm, centered. "I wasn't talking about you specifically." "But you didn't say you weren't talking about me," Whoopi countered. Her voice was steady, but her eyes sparked, and anyone watching could feel the quiet storm forming behind them. Penelope's jaw tightened, a small, controlled movement, but meaningful. "I said what I felt," she said. "If someone recognized themselves in what I described, then maybe that's something they should reflect on." Joy's mouth dropped open just a little. Sunny sat up straighter, sensing the momentum shift. And the audience, God, the audience, sat frozen. No coughing, no whispering, no shifting in their seats. Complete stillness. Whoopi let the silence expand, filling the space like smoke. "So you're saying I should reflect?" she asked. Penelope didn't flinch. "I'm saying everyone should. Myself included." Joy tried desperately to lighten things. "Okay, ladies, this is sounding like a therapy session I'm not qualified for." But neither of them looked at her. They stayed locked on each other, two powerhouses in a calm but undeniable clash. Whoopi spoke again, this time quieter. "You know, Penelope, I've been in this industry a very long time. I've seen people come and go. I've supported a lot of careers. So when someone implies I'm part of the problem, I take that seriously." Penelope nodded. "And I respect your experience. But sometimes support is not loud. Sometimes it's silent. Sometimes too silent." A near-audible chill ran across the audience. Whoopi's eyebrows lifted. Slightly. Almost impressed, almost challenged. "Are you saying I haven't supported you?" Whoopi asked. Penelope hesitated. Not because she feared answering, but because she wanted to choose the right words. "I'm saying," she replied, "there have been moments when I expected solidarity, and it wasn't there." Sunny's hand covered her mouth. Joy stared at the camera, as if mentally apologizing to the viewers. The director in the control room panicked for a split second, unsure whether to cut to commercial or let the drama unfold. He chose the latter. Whoopi leaned back, tapping the edge of her note cards. She didn't break eye contact. "And you came on this show today knowing I'd ask you about that?" she said. "Yes," Penelope answered simply. "Because I believe in clarity." This time the audience reacted, soft murmurs, the sound of tension becoming too thick to ignore. A few people whispered to each other. Someone in the third row squeezed their friend's arm. Joy waved her hands like a referee. "Is anyone else sweating?" "Because I'm sweating. Can we get the AC turned up?" But Whoopi didn't smile. She wasn't angry, she was focused. Intense. Like she'd locked onto something she needed to address before moving forward. "Penelope," she said, "if you felt unsupported by me at some point, why didn't you come to me directly?" Penelope slightly tilted her head, her voice warm but unwavering. "Because sometimes, Whoopi, when you're the newcomer in the room, it's hard to approach the person with the biggest presence." That line landed like a weight. Whoopi looked away for the first time. Not out of defeat, but contemplation. Real contemplation. "You think I'm unapproachable?" she asked quietly. Penelope folded her hands in her lap. "I think you're iconic," she said gently. "And sometimes iconic people don't realize how much space they take." A collective O pulsed through the audience like a low drumbeat. Whoopi's eyes narrowed just slightly, not maliciously, but in that analytical way she gets when she's deciding whether a statement is an offense or a revelation. "Maybe," she said finally. "I do take up space." Penelope nodded once. "We all do." Joy exhaled loudly. "Okay, see, now we're having breakthroughs. Oprah would be proud. Can we talk about the movie now?" But neither woman broke their focus. Whoopi looked at Penelope again, a different expression now. Curious, measuring, maybe even vulnerable beneath the layers of composure. "You surprised me today," she said. Penelope's eyes softened slightly. "You surprised me too." For the first time since the confrontation began, the studio felt a faint ease, like the storm was shifting, not ending, but evolving. Sunny jumped in before the silence swallowed the moment. "Penelope, before we continue, do you want to clarify anything for Whoopi, for the audience, for everyone watching?" Penelope breathed in. A slow, steady breath. "Yes," she said. "I want to make something clear." The entire studio leaned in. "I never intended to attack anyone. I shared my experiences honestly. If those experiences felt close to home for someone, that doesn't make them my enemy. It makes them part of the same story. And maybe that story needs to be told." The audience murmured in awe. Whoopi nodded slowly, absorbing, calculating, maybe even thawing. "So you're saying this isn't personal?" Whoopi asked. Penelope hesitated only a moment. "It's personal to me," she said. "But that doesn't mean it's about you." The tension didn't vanish. But it shifted, deepened, becoming something more layered, less explosive, more intimate. And as the segment continued, the cameras captured something rare. Two towering figures in entertainment navigating an unscripted emotional minefield in real time. The director signaled for a break. The theme music swelled. The lights dimmed. But the audience? They stayed silent. Shocked. Hooked. Waiting. Because everyone knew this was only the beginning. The moment the cameras cut to commercial, the studio atmosphere changed, but not in the way anyone expected. Usually, during breaks on The View, the hosts chat lightly, makeup artists rush in with brushes, and producers quietly whisper reminders. But this time, no one moved toward Penelope Cruz or Whoopi Goldberg. It was as if the invisible crack between them had widened, creating a no-go zone the staff was scared to step into. Penelope sat completely still, her hands folded in her lap, her expression calm but unreadable. Whoopi, meanwhile, leaned forward slightly, elbows resting on her knees as she tapped her fingers together in a slow, rhythmic pattern that suggested her mind was sorting through 24 thoughts at once. Joy Behar kept glancing between them, her face pulled into an expression that was half panic, half delight. She lived for moments like these, television gold. But she also didn't want to be in the middle of an emotional earthquake. Sunny Hostin reached for her water, but her hand shook slightly, the ice clinking against the glass. The audience whispered, low and buzzing, like a hive trying to decide whether to swarm or stay still. A stage manager walked over hesitantly. 30 seconds, he said quietly, then immediately backed away like a man stepping out of a blast radius. Penelope finally turned toward Whoopi. "I'm sorry if this blindsided you," she said softly, her voice carrying a sincerity that contrasted sharply with the earlier tension. Whoopi didn't look up. I'm not blindsided, she muttered. Just surprised. Penelope tilted her head. Surprised can be good. Sometimes, Whoopi replied, sitting back again. Sometimes it's just exhausting. Before Penelope could answer, the countdown began. The lights brightened. The audience grew quiet. The theme music faded. Their mics came back on, and the battle resumed. Whoopi straightened her cards and looked directly into the lens. Welcome back, she said with that familiar, controlled warmth that viewers recognized instantly. We're here with Penelope Cruz, talking about her upcoming film, and apparently other things too. A ripple of laughter moved through the audience. Penelope smiled politely, but there was a firmness in her eyes now. She wasn't backing away from what had begun. Sunny jumped in quickly. Let's talk about the film for a moment. Penelope, your character goes through a major emotional journey. It's interesting, Whoopi interrupted. How art imitates life, huh? Joy choked on her sip of water. Oh my God, she whispered under her breath. Penelope turned toward Whoopi, her expression softening. Not out of fear, but understanding. It does, she said. And sometimes life imitates art too. Whoopi let out a breath, the kind that was half laugh, half release. All right, Joy said, clapping her hands once. Enough with the deep metaphors, or I'm going to need a nap. The audience laughed. Tension loosened, but didn't vanish. Sunny pressed on. Penelope, in this film, your character confronts someone she once admired. She feels disappointed, lost, hurt. Do you relate to that at all? It was a setup, one that could either cool the flames or pour gasoline on them. Everyone froze, waiting for her answer. Penelope didn't rush. She let a full beat pass before she spoke. Yes, she said. I relate very deeply. The studio fell silent again. Penelope continued, her voice steady, almost meditative. There are moments in this industry when admiration collides with reality. Moments when you look at someone you respected and think, you didn't see me. Not really. Whoopi's expression didn't change much, but her eyes did, softening, narrowing, flickering with something emotional. Penelope went on. It's not about blame. It's about honesty. Whoopi finally responded. I can respect honesty, she said. But honesty cuts both ways. It does, Penelope agreed, meeting her gaze with equal intensity. The audience sat locked in place, unable to look away. Joy slowly set her mug down. Can I just say something? She said, both eyebrows raised to the ceiling. This is the most dramatic moment we've had all year, and I'm including that time I tripped over a monitor and almost died. The audience burst into laughter, desperate for a release. Even Penelope cracked a small smile. But Whoopi stayed focused. She turned her chair slightly toward Penelope, signaling she wasn't done. You know, Whoopi said quietly, I watched that interview 3 times. And I kept thinking, why now? Why talk about it now? Penelope inhaled. Because silence benefits no one, she said. And because people listen differently at different stages of your career. I'm at a point where my voice carries farther. So I'm using it. And you think I silenced you? Whoopi asked. Penelope hesitated, not out of fear, but precision. She didn't want to lie. She didn't want to exaggerate either. I think, she said slowly, there were moments when your voice drowned out mine. Maybe unintentionally. Maybe because your voice is powerful. Maybe because the room was already listening to you. Whoopi leaned back slightly. Joy whispered loudly to Sunny. I told you I should have taken an anxiety pill before the show. Sunny nudged her. Sure. Whoopi exhaled through her nose. You know, I've been accused of many things. Being loud. Being blunt. Being too direct. But silencing someone? That one's new. Penelope nodded respectfully. Then maybe this is the first time someone has told you. Something shifted then, something almost imperceptible, but heavy. Whoopi didn't argue. She didn't deflect. She didn't shoot back with a joke or a sharp comment. She simply absorbed the words. And that was more powerful than any rebuttal. The camera zoomed in slightly, catching the small details. The soft crease between Penelope's brows, the subtle tension in Whoopi's jaw, the way Joy kept glancing at the teleprompter like it might save her. Sunny leaned forward, sensing a potential bridge. Penelope, you've talked a lot about mentorship in the past. Did you ever hope Whoopi would be one? Or expect it? Penelope turned toward her. No, I never expected it, but I would have welcomed it. The audience reacted, soft gasps, murmurs, the emotional sway of collective surprise. Whoopi looked genuinely taken aback. You wanted me to mentor you? Penelope shrugged gently. Not formally. Not like, teach me everything. But guidance. A conversation. A moment of acknowledgement in a room where I was still finding my place. And you think I ignored you, Whoopi said, voice low but steady. I think, Penelope replied, you didn't notice me. Those words landed differently. They weren't confrontational. They weren't accusatory. They carried a quiet hurt, a vulnerability that made the room soften around her. For the first time, Whoopi broke eye contact. She blinked, looking down at the table, then up again, her expression more open. I didn't know, she said simply. Penelope nodded. Not triumphantly. Not with vindication. With understanding. I know, she said. Joy leaned forward dramatically. Oh my God, I'm going to cry. Can someone bring me tissues? Or tequila? The audience laughed softly. The tension had transformed. Not gone, but reshaped into something gentler, more human. Whoopi finally spoke again. You know, people think I don't care what others think. They say it all the time. But I do. I just don't always know how to show it. Penelope smiled faintly. That's very human, she said. We all hide behind roles. Joy threw up her hands. Okay, what is this? The View or group therapy? Should I get a diploma after this episode? The audience roared with laughter, finally able to breathe again. But then, just when it seemed the storm had calmed, Whoopi leaned in once more. Penelope, she said, there's still something I don't understand. If you felt this way, why didn't you reach out privately before speaking publicly? Penelope's expression softened. This was the question she had expected, the one she had prepared for. Because sometimes, she said, private conversations stay private, and private pain stays hidden. But when you speak openly, other people feel less alone. Whoopi nodded slowly. Joy whispered, Okay, I'm definitely crying now. The audience laughed again, but this time it blended with something deeper, emotion, empathy, connection. Sunny looked from Whoopi to Penelope. Do you think, she asked carefully, that this conversation, right here, is the one you were both supposed to have years ago? Penelope's eyes glistened, not with tears, but with the recognition of truth. Yes, she said. I think so. And Whoopi, after a quiet moment, said, Yeah, me too. The audience applauded, soft at first, then louder, rising into a wave that filled the studio with warmth instead of tension. But just as the applause began to fade, Penelope said something that pulled every eye back to her instantly. There's more I want to say. Joy froze. Sunny looked up sharply. Whoopi raised an eyebrow. The audience held its breath. Penelope continued, Because this isn't just about me. Or you. There's something bigger behind it. And the studio, once again, fell into absolute electric silence. The camera lights glowed brighter. The air shifted. The stage was set for a revelation that none of them were prepared for. The studio lights felt harsher now, as if they sensed that Penelope Cruz was about to peel back a deeper layer, one that had been quietly building beneath the surface of the entire conversation. The audience leaned forward instinctively, sensing that the most surprising revelations had not yet been spoken. Penelope rested her palms on the table, her posture straight but not rigid. Calm but charged. A presence that could silence a room without raising a single decibel. She looked at Whoopi, then at the other hosts, then briefly toward the audience before returning her gaze to the woman across from her. This isn't just about mentorship, Penelope said, or being overlooked. It's about the industry itself. The word industry vibrated through the room. Whoopi rubbed her thumb across the edge of her note cards. Meaning what exactly? She asked, her tone cautious but not defensive. Penelope exhaled, steady. Meaning there are patterns, habits, that people in power repeat without realizing it. Patterns that shape the careers of people who are still finding their footing. I've seen it. I've felt it. And I know I'm not the only one. Sunny held her breath. Joy pressed a stack of papers to her chest like it might shield her from the emotional blast radius. Penelope continued. There were moments early in my career when producers or directors treated me like I was temporary, replaceable. But what hurt more were the moments when other actors, people I admired, would look right through me. Not intentionally, just because their world already felt full. Whoopi swallowed hard, holding her gaze. You felt invisible. Yes, Penelope said. And the hardest part is that invisibility doesn't come from strangers. It comes from the people you admire most. A subdued murmur moved through the audience, a collective resonance, as if people recognized the quiet truth of what she was saying. Sunny leaned in. Are you talking about senior actors? Hosts? Producers? The establishment as a whole. Penelope nodded. All of it. And it starts small. One overlooked moment. One conversation you're left out of. One time someone chooses not to pronounce your name correctly because it's too difficult. And suddenly, you're fighting twice as hard just to exist in the room. Whoopi's expression shifted. Something about Penelope's words pierced deeper than the earlier tension. Joy sighed dramatically. Okay, I'm officially depressed. The audience chuckled, but softly, their attention still anchored to Penelope. Whoopi cleared her throat. Look, I'm not going to pretend I understand everything you've been through, but I get feeling unseen. I felt that too. Maybe not in the same way, but I get it. Penelope's eyes flickered with gratitude. I know you do. Joy raised a finger. Wait, am I the only one who doesn't feel unseen? Because I feel very seen. Like too seen. Sometimes I wish people would unsee me. The audience laughed harder this time. Joy had a talent for puncturing tension without dismissing it. But Penelope wasn't finished. She turned her body slightly toward the camera, unplanned but powerful. What I've learned is that silence protects the system. The moment you speak, the moment you say, "This hurt me," people listen differently. They pay attention, even if the conversation is uncomfortable. Whoopi nodded. Uncomfortable is where the real stuff happens. Penelope smiled faintly. Exactly. Sunny gestured with her hands. Penelope, do you think this dynamic between you and Whoopi is part of a larger pattern? Or is it more personal? Penelope considered the question for several seconds before answering. It's both, she said. It's personal because it happened between us. But it's systemic because it happens everywhere. Whoopi raised her chin. I respect you for saying it. Not everyone has the courage. Penelope's eyebrows softened. I respect you for listening. Joy pointed at them dramatically. You see this? Growth. Emotional maturity. I don't even know how to handle this. Someone bring me a snack. The audience cracked up again, but only briefly, because Penelope wasn't done. She leaned forward, her voice lowering to a more intimate tone. There's one moment I've never talked about publicly. Whoopi straightened. Between us? Penelope hesitated. Yes, but also bigger than us. The room tightened. The air pricked with anticipation. Joy muttered, "Oh no, here we go again," and took a sip of her mug like it was whiskey. Penelope inhaled deeply. Years ago, at an award ceremony, just before my career had really taken off internationally, I was standing backstage waiting for my cue. I was nervous, very young, still shy in English. Someone behind me, someone I respected, said, "She won't make it long. She's beautiful, but she'll never be taken seriously." The audience gasped in unison. Sunny's hand flew to her chest. Oh my God! Penelope nodded slowly. I pretended I didn't hear it. But I did. Every word. And for years, I carried it like a quiet weight. Whoopi leaned forward, intense. Who said it? Penelope held her gaze. I'm not naming them. That's not the point. The point is the mindset. The dismissiveness. The belief that some people don't belong unless someone else invites them in. Whoopi's jaw tightened. And you think I made you feel like that person did? I think, Penelope said carefully, that you reminded me of that moment. Not intentionally, but the energy was similar. The distance. The lack of recognition. A deep breath seemed to ripple across the entire audience. Whoopi's voice was softer now. If I made you feel that way, I'm sorry. It was not dramatic. Not embellished. Just real. Penelope's eyes flickered with emotion. She didn't cry. She didn't crumble. She simply nodded. Thank you. Joy placed a hand over her heart. Okay, see, now I am crying, Sunny. Look at this. Look at my face. Mascara everywhere. Sunny patted her shoulder. You're fine. The director motioned for the camera to zoom in slightly. The two women, Penelope and Whoopi, sat across from each other, not adversaries anymore, but participants in an unscripted reckoning that neither had expected when the show began. Whoopi exhaled. You know something? I've spent decades being the strong one. The unshakable one. Maybe somewhere along the line, I forgot how loud my presence is. Penelope nodded. And maybe I forgot how much courage it takes to stand in front of someone you respect and say, I felt hurt. Joy clapped her hands. Ladies, you're doing better than my therapist does for me, and I pay her real money. The audience laughed, but the emotional current remained strong. Sunny turned to Penelope. What did you mean earlier when you said this conversation was something bigger? Penelope's eyes glimmered with a clarity that quieted the room instantly. I meant that people watching this, people who feel ignored, overshadowed, underestimated. They need to see that confrontation doesn't have to be a fight. It can be an opening, a chance to finally be heard. The audience burst into applause. Whoopi nodded admiringly. You're braver than people give you credit for. I've had to be, Penelope replied softly. A producer behind the cameras signaled frantically. A hard break was coming up. 2 minutes left before commercial. Joy leaned forward. Okay, before they cut us off, because apparently feelings have time limits. Penelope, is there anything else you want to say? Or should we all just go lay down somewhere and reflect on our lives? The audience chuckled. Penelope paused. Then she looked Whoopi directly in the eyes. Yes, she said. There's one more thing. Whoopi lifted her chin, prepared open. You once said in an interview that the most powerful thing a person can do is show up for themselves. Today, I showed up, but so did you. And I appreciate that. The studio, moved, warmed, softened, applauded again, stronger this time, filled with admiration. But Whoopi wasn't done either. She leaned closer to Penelope. Just so you know, if I had realized you felt that way back then, I would have shown up for you sooner. Penelope's eyes glistened. Then let's start now. A moment of genuine connection passed between them, brief but unmistakably real. Joy wiped her eyes dramatically. We've healed international relations today. Somebody call the UN. The audience roared with laughter. The director counted down in the host's ears. 5 seconds. Whoopi turned to the camera, her voice steady. We'll be right back. But as the theme music faded and the lights dimmed, the energy in the studio didn't relax. It thickened again. Because during the commercial break, something unexpected would unfold. A moment, a comment, a shift, something that would reignite the tension in a way no one predicted. When the cameras cut to commercial, the audience expected relief, a breather from the emotional roller coaster that had unfolded. But instead, the studio filled with a thick, humming tension, as if the air itself understood that something unfinished still hung between Penelope Cruz and Whoopi Goldberg. What neither the viewers nor even the hosts expected was that the real explosion was about to happen off-air. The moment the microphones turned off, Joy Behar let out a dramatic groan and slumped back in her chair. I need a vacation. A long one. With margaritas. Sunny Hostin rubbed her temples. That was intense. Beautiful, but intense. But Whoopi didn't respond. She stayed seated, staring at the empty space on the table in front of her. A deep furrow formed between her brows, thoughtful, conflicted, questioning herself in a way that felt almost startling to witness. Penelope watched her, quiet but attentive. A producer approached cautiously. Everything okay up here? No one answered him. He backed away. The audience whispered softly, shifting in their seats. Some leaned forward, hoping to catch even the faintest murmur from the table. Then it happened. One voice from the front row, too loud, too bold, cut through the silence. She shouldn't have said all that to you, Whoopi. The entire studio froze. Whoopi looked up slowly, her expression unreadable. Penelope blinked, startled. Joy spun around. Oh, we're doing this now. Sunny held her breath. The woman in the audience continued, her voice trembling with emotion. You've been in this industry forever. She had no right to call you out like that on live television. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Penelope straightened in her seat, not defensive but dignified. She has every right to her feelings, she said firmly. Just as I had a right to share mine. The woman opened her mouth again, but this time Whoopi raised a hand, calmly, powerfully. Stop, Whoopi said. The woman fell silent immediately. Whoopi turned toward Penelope. You don't deserve that, she said. From anyone. Penelope's features softened. Thank you. But the moment of quiet respect was short-lived, because another voice rose up, this one from the opposite side of the audience. No, she was right to speak up. People need to hear it. And suddenly the audience, divided, emotional, started murmuring, debating, reacting. Joy threw her hands in the air. Everyone relax. This is a talk show, not a courtroom. Sunny stood slightly, trying to calm the room with gestures. Penelope turned and addressed both sides. Please, she said softly. Let's not argue about this. I didn't come here to create division. But the audience wouldn't quiet. The conversation was like a match that had suddenly found gasoline, sparking louder, hotter. Whoopi rose from her seat. Instant silence. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't gesture wildly. She simply stood, commanding, grounded, owning the moment. This isn't a fight, Whoopi said. This is a conversation. A real one. And sometimes real conversations make people uncomfortable. The audience quieted. Penelope rose as well, matching her energy. And sometimes discomfort brings clarity. Now the two women stood side by side, not adversaries, but forces balancing each other. Joy whispered loudly to Sunny, "Okay, now they look like they're about to lead a revolution." Sunny elbowed her. "Joy, please." Whoopi turned to Penelope. "Before we go back on air, I want you to know something. What you said, it hit me. Not because it was wrong, but because it was right." Penelope's breath caught slightly. "I didn't want to hurt you." "I know," Whoopi replied. "And maybe you didn't. Maybe you helped me see something I didn't want to see." A hush fell over the room. Penelope stepped closer. "Then maybe this moment was necessary." Whoopi nodded slowly. "Maybe it was." The audience watched, entranced, feeling like they were witnessing something raw, real, and unexpectedly human. A voice from backstage called out, "Back in 10. Everyone took their seats. Even the audience settled, an electric anticipation crackling across the studio. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The cameras lit up. Whoopi leaned forward, her voice steady but carrying new weight. "Welcome back. Before we continue, there's something I need to say." The studio went silent. Joy's eyes widened. Sunny's hands folded in front of her. Penelope looked at Whoopi, surprised but open. Whoopi continued, "This show is built on honesty, on conversation, but also on growth. And today, Penelope and I had a real moment. A moment that wasn't scripted, wasn't planned, and wasn't always comfortable. But it mattered." Penelope exhaled softly. Whoopi turned to her. "You spoke your truth. And I heard it. Really heard it." Penelope placed a hand over her heart. "Thank you." Whoopi nodded. "And I want everyone watching, everyone out there, to remember something. We're all still learning. Still figuring things out. Even after decades in this business." The audience applauded. Penelope leaned toward the camera. "And I hope people at home see that speaking up doesn't have to be a battle. It can be a bridge." Sunny chimed in. "This might be one of the most powerful conversations we've had on the show." Joy nodded. "Definitely top 5. Maybe top 3. Maybe even number 1 if we don't count the episode where I accidentally set my cue card on fire." The audience laughed, tension releasing. But the moment was not over. Whoopi turned again to Penelope, her voice soft. "I want to say something else directly to you." Penelope blinked, surprised. "Yes. From now on, if you ever feel unseen, unheard, or overshadowed, you come to me. Directly." Penelope's eyes glistened. "I will." Joy dramatically fanned herself. "I can't handle this. My emotions have emotions." Whoopi reached out her hand. Penelope didn't hesitate. She took it. The audience erupted into applause, loud, rising, emotional. But even that wasn't the end. After the show, clips of the confrontation flooded social media. Trending topics exploded. Debates raged across platforms. People chose sides. Think pieces popped up. Celebrities weighed in. Fan edits went viral. Some called Penelope courageous. Others accused her of blindsiding Whoopi. Many praised both women for their honesty and vulnerability. Stageview viewers would eat this story alive. And as Penelope walked backstage following the episode, she stopped, turned, and looked at Whoopi, who had followed her into the hallway. For a moment, they simply stood there. Then Whoopi said quietly, "Thank you for pushing me." Penelope smiled softly. "Thank you for meeting me halfway." They hugged, brief, sincere, unguarded. The kind of hug that ended a chapter, but also started a new one. And as Penelope left the studio, her heels clicking down the hallway, she whispered to herself, "It was time." If you're watching this on Stageview, we want to hear your thoughts. Whose perspective resonated with you more? Do you think Penelope was right to confront Whoopi publicly? Or should it have stayed a private conversation? Tell us in the comments below. Your opinion matters. And if you want more cinematic, emotional, explosive celebrity stories like this one, don't forget to subscribe to Stageview, hit the like button, and turn on notifications so you never miss a moment. More drama, more intensity, more stories that pull you right into the heart of the moment. All right here on Stageview.